Hi, I'm Natasha Sinyanovich, a public radio journalist, and this is Women Like Sex, a myth-busting podcast that examines the many, many medical, scientific, and social facts about female sexuality that were never, in fact, facts. Especially the very modern-day belief that women don't like sex as much as men do. I'll be speaking with experts, educators, friends, comedians, and listeners of all ages, backgrounds, and parts of the globe to flip the scripts on myths and misconceptions that have long been dictated by not women. Together, we'll replace so much inaccurate messaging with healthier, smarter, factual facts and get the sex ed we wished we'd gotten. We've come a long way, baby. Kinda. Because we still base so much female sexuality on what men from millennia ago deemed correct and proper, especially in the kind of evangelical church in which this week's guest was raised, in which she says sexualizes girls while simultaneously cutting them off from their own intuition and bodies. Sarah was taught that a girl's and woman's worth is intrinsically tied to purity, to virginity, modesty, shame, and that sneaky talking snake. She was also taught that girls and women are gatekeepers of the sexuality of boys and men. In other words, messaging that most of us get, but to the nth degree. Sarah is a friend and freshly divorced mom who, in her words, has been on a journey of unlearning and of loving herself. After protesting abortion as a child and suppressing some of her deepest desires for years, she's been shedding the body and soul shame of purity culture and its myths. These are hard but necessary journeys. And Sarah says hers has led to rediscovering her body, spirit, joy, and yes, great sex too. Let's begin. Because I am so religiously ignorant. I grew up so far away from any church. What is purity culture? At least your experience of it. I know that not every faith community kind of engages in purity culture, does it in the same way or to the same extent.
The purity culture I grew up with, I would say the foundation of it rests in the word amputating comes to mind. Removing a woman's intuition or connection to her intuition, her knowing, first and foremost. We are born into sin. We are sinful creatures. And the story of Adam and Eve, as a child, I remember hearing that story and just wondering, what the heck was in that apple? Why did she want it? And were they naked? They couldn't have been naked. No way. And just all the blame and shame was because of Eve. And because Eve introduced the apple, childbirth became painful. And man was sinful because of Eve and her apple. And she believed the snake. It's like heavy metaphors, but like hearing this as a kid, the woman is to blame. Also, women, girls, don't trust your intuition because your intuition is of the devil, just like the snake.
So it equates your very existence, like your body, but your existence in general with ethics and morality.
Yes.
And makes it impossible to be an ethical, moral person.
Yes. Yeah.
Impossible, but you're supposed to do all these things or not do all these things, right? To
Yeah.
somehow attain this morality that you were born without.
As a girl, I was always extremely aware of how I carried my body walking through church. Because as a girl and then a teenager and certainly a woman, we were responsible for if the man or if the boys would be tempted. So it's the sexualization of even girls, little girls. And I felt that I didn't know what was happening at the time. I just knew I had to have the appearance of almost perfection and piety and walk a certain way to not attract attention. Do not attract attention, Sarah, whatever you do. Also, be perfect, whatever that means.
Right.
The purity culture I grew up with taught little girls that you had to reach for this level of perfection, whatever that is, this level of purity, whatever that is, so boys and men were not tempted or they didn't stumble is the verbiage that I grew up hearing. So you're carrying the weight of kids around you. Like, what?
Right.
Ew. And the men around you. Ew.
Yeah.
The foundation of it lies in do not trust your intuition. That's of the devil. Your guidance comes from elsewhere, comes from the Bible. It's not within you. Within you, that's your intuition.
What always makes me sad when I think of the beauty of religion, there are beautiful things.
Oh, yes.
I don't believe that God created things because I didn't grow up believing in God.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always thought, even as a kid, like if you believe that this divine being created everything, why doesn't that make us already perfect? Or just beautiful? Perfect.
Whole. Like we are
Whole.
born whole. We are born pure. Like we are born pure because we exist. Like, right. So as a kid, it never made sense to me. If we're born reflecting God's image, in God's image, well, I'm sorry, is God's image naturally evil, sinful, bad? That doesn't make sense to me. But yet that's what we're taught. And even now that I have my own children, I've had to have very hard conversations with my own parents. You may not talk to my kids about sin. They are not born into sin ever.
Mm.
They're good. They are perfect the way they are. And so are you. That's the good news.
How do they respond to that?
Oof. It was hard. My dad started to cry because they equate that with me being an atheist. I've been called an atheist for a majority of my adult life. And I do believe in a higher power. I don't think they have a name. It resulted in, my dad was visibly upset. And I remember saying to my dad and my mom in my kitchen about a year ago, if you can't see the light within me, I don't know what to tell you, but I know God sees my light.
Mm.
And if you can't see the light within my kids, your own grandchildren, I don't know what to tell you. But I see their light, and I know God does too.
The statistics and studies show that women suffer from PTSD at much higher rates than men, including veterans, significantly higher. And I haven't really seen studies on how that translates into fundamentalist religion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I see a fundamentalism in purity culture.
Oh, absolutely. You can't separate the two.
I have so much respect for women who have come out of that because the resilience you have to have, like already women walk through the world very conscious of their bodies. You want to be beautiful. You want to be sexy. The world does teach you that, but not too much.
Yep.
Because then you don't know what, through no fault of somebody else's, they might do something to you.
Don't invite it in.
Your body isn't your own because someone else could just take it. So a very long-winded way of saying I have so much respect for you to have come out of this and also be such a joyful person. And I'm not thinking that like, oh, you have this perfect life and you're happy all the time, but you are a bright, shining light.
Thank you.
You really are.
You just made me think of something else about another term that I grew up hearing is your body is God's temple, which in some regard is really beautiful. But in the purity culture sense, it's like, it's not yours. That's God's temple. And so there's a lot of rules that come with walking around in God's temple.
Which, again, should be this amazing thing where it's so sacrosanct. Yep. You do not violate it.
Right.
God created this. It is God's temple.
Right.
So nobody's desires or wants, especially when it comes to predatory behavior, but anything, should supersede.
Right. Also, within God's temple, women like sex. This is how we were created, if we're going with that.
Right.
There
are a lot of clauses.
Read the fine print.
Right. And one thing that to me, when I was younger and sort of starting to understand religion, in as much as I understand it, one thing that was very suspect to me was like, well, why is it in all of these stories and in all, there's a very clear hierarchy. I know it goes back to original sin, but because I didn't believe in original sin, I was like, something's fishy about this, that there's always one category that comes out on top. No pun intended, right?
Oh, God.
There's always one category that is more than and one that is less than.
Right.
And it's like, so that was written by the more than category. Like little, they're so young that there was no idea of like feminism in me or something. But it was like, I have a feeling that women didn't write this because I don't think that women would have written.
No, we were absent. We were absent from every story unless we were giving birth at the age of 100 and... What age did Sarah give birth? 100 and something?
Oh, I don't know.
It's bananas. Like this story is just like nonsensical. And then we're celebrating Mary giving birth at what, 14 years old? Why are we celebrating this? 14?
Yeah, right. Within that, what kind of like actual sex ed did you get or not get? Like, were there? My understanding is within purity culture, like parents don't usually play a large role in that. It
Yeah,
is
no.
sort of like the pastors, the church elders, the whoever in the church who is teaching. Heavy air quotes sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Teaching sex and sexuality.
Interesting enough, I'm the last of 7 kids, and I didn't hear about sex or anything like that from any of my siblings. They're much older than me. Mainly through friends in school. I was, in public education in Wisconsin. And my parents very openly talked about saving yourself for marriage. Sex should only be within marriage. My mom got married at 19. So they would talk about sex in that sense. And then I can't even, when I was 15 years old, my mom started her own ministry in my hometown. And she legitimately has helped many, 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 many underprivileged moms, girls, and then would adapt my parents' teaching of second time virginity and then third time virginity. And if they had a baby, fourth time. So when I was 15 years old, my mom started this, and they would provide diapers and clothing and all these resources for these young families that really needed it. And then on the other hand, when they would come to the Monday night program, my mom and, volunteers from the church would teach these girls to not have sex again. They wouldn't encourage these girls to get on birth control because that's not allowed. And so my idea of sexuality and I don't even know. Sexuality, what is that? But I knew not to have sex and certainly don't get pregnant. And also, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, women from the church, including my mom and all of us little girls, held signs of dead fetuses on a highway in my hometown protesting the right to abortion. So, in answer to your question, no sex ed from the family, but the fear of abortion was put into me. The fear of being pregnant was put into me as literally the worst thing that could happen. Oh, and then my girlfriends and I, when we were in high school, went to Barnes and Noble. Oh man, this was great. And we put our money together and bought, I swear to God, this book was probably 200 pages thick. And it was all about sex with diagrams and
Do you remember what it was
pictures.
called?
Oh, I don't. But we bought it and we digested all of it, that and Cosmo magazine, how to give a blowjob. Because that's what we should be teaching.
That's what we need to know about
That's
sex
what we
and
need to know.
sexuality.
Yeah.
I have other sort of friends or acquaintances who have come through other purity cultures where they had the sex ed with like a piece of tape or a piece of chewing gum.
Oh, man. Yeah, you just made me remember. In youth group. Alrighty. Yeah, in youth group, the youth pastor talked about sex in terms of if you were to pass around a sucker to everybody,
Like a lollipop?
a lollipop, yeah, and how dirty it would be at the end and how gross that would be. So there was that. And then explicit, oh my gosh, I forgot about all this. And explicit instruction on how to touch someone of the opposite sex, what was like acceptable within the youth group. And that was limited to giving a back scratch or like a shoulder rub. So shoulder rubs were like huge in youth group. Oh, and hand holding. You can hold a hand.
If you like somebody, this is what you can do. You can hold hands and
Yes,
you can rub
yeah.
each other's shoulders.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So there, yeah, I'd forgotten about the lollipop one.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever asks. Nobody ever asks, like, maybe the lollipop had fun.
Yeah.
Did God's loophole exist when you were being
Yes.
taught?
Oh.
Can you explain what God's loophole is?
Oh, man. Well, no one talked about God's loophole, but in the church I grew up in, I didn't know of any other girls who were like fooling around with boys other than myself. Well, myself and I guess a couple of my friends.
How old were it? Like when you
Mm.
say at this point?
Safely 15, 16, 16, 17. And so I can't, oh my gosh. Vaginal intercourse was definitely the thing you wanted to avoid. And so oral or like hand jobs or the booty butt.
The booty butt. There's several loopholes. It was my
Yeah.
understanding it was just like anal penetration, but it can be like oral and hand jobs.
I think. But that's the thing about purity culture. What is pure? It's this
Right.
shifty notion. There's no there's no oh, you're unpure now. Some people think you're unpure if you have a first kiss before you're married.
Mm-hmm.
I've witnessed first kisses at the altar. That's insanity. So in my mind, these things were allowed. Then other girls, women that I've met that grew up in purity culture, we have very similar stories,
Mm-hmm.
but no one told us explicitly. But the vagina and getting pregnant, like, don't do that.
That's the part that whose purity you have to
Right.
protect the most.
Right.
I want to go back to second virginity and third virginity. First,
Yeah.
already the idea of virginity is a really slippery slope. There is no
Mhm.
biological or medical definition of virginity. It's
No.
basically a social construct.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it means different things to different people. And
Mhm.
the way that when we think of it, we're really thinking about penis and vagina penetration,
Right.
which means that like no queer person is ever having sex
Right, right,
or quote
right.
unquote losing their virginity. And it's very much something that is lost.
Yes.
Nothing is gained.
Lost. Yeah. And it's the only thing in the church that, yeah, you lost it. You can't get it back. So, oh gosh, I could go on about this. So, like, when you accept Jesus Christ as your savior and you're forgiven of all sins, do I get my virginity back? No,
Well, because that's the biggest sin of all, right?
I guess.
Do you get your moral virginity back if you've murdered someone and then accept Jesus?
I don't know.
I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
Have your kids asked you about virginity and sex?
No, I honestly, as recently as this week, I was watching something on Netflix and a sexy scene came up. And my kids were on the couch with me, and I was like, avert your eyes, avert your eyes. And I like fast forwarded it. And it wasn't anything crazy, but like they're 7 and 10. My daughter made like a funny little comment, and I looked at her and she kind of raised her eyebrows, like, what, mom? And so I asked her this week about the show and did you know what they were doing? And she's like, I don't know, kind of, but I don't know. And so I kind of had a conversation with her about that. And I didn't know what I was gonna say. So we were on a walk and I found myself saying, like, you're about to be in middle school. And I don't know if friends of yours have already started talking about sharing your body, deciding to share your body with someone else. And so that just popped out of my mouth. And I'm like, deciding to share your body. Okay, I guess that's what I'm going with. Sounds right. Yeah. And so I just kind of started talking about it through that framework and how when you decide to share your body, big feelings. I talk about that with my kids. Big feelings come into play. And as a kid, you don't know how to process these big feelings, and neither does the other kid. And so maybe we should just stay focused on what is friendship? Who am I? What is my body like? Before you decide to share your body with someone else, get to know your body first.
Mm.
And she's like, okay, mom. And then she asked about if we can get chickens. So here we are.
Like animal, not chicken, the meat.
A live chicken for the front yard. Yeah. She's about to go into middle school. I just want to keep in communication with her and make sure that she knows she can talk to me. And she certainly asked me questions about stuff.
Do you feel like there are different things that you need to tell your son and daughter, or the same message so that they get the same messaging?
I want to say that I'm the modern crunchy granola mom who's like, I give my kids the same messages, but I've realized I'm more harsh with my son when he walks in on my daughter in the bathroom. My tone is more harsh. Give your sister privacy. You got to give your sister privacy. Respect your sister's boundaries. If she doesn't want you in her bedroom, you do not go in her bedroom. But yet, in my son's bedroom, we have a pet snake. There's no knocking on little brother's door. And so that's interesting to me. But oh man, little boys, he is all about slapping booty butts, farts. His hand is down his pants when we're in public places. So conversations with him are just different. But, the slapping booty butts, like you cannot slap your sister's booty butt on the playground, even though they run around the house and they wrestle and slap butts. But, so it's like this weird double standard where I just react with a bit more urgency when doesn't respect his sister's boundaries.
As a woman, you also know how much messaging your son is going to get that it's
Yes.
okay to push boundaries. It's okay to not have boundaries
Yes.
with women's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it doesn't happen to boys,
Correct.
because it certainly does.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, it's still coming from males,
Mm-hmm.
which is not to say women don't sexually assault or girls can't sexually assault someone. But I get it. And I would probably do the same.
So, as far as speaking to my kids about people who make you feel safe in your body or unsafe in your body, red flag and green flag people. And sometimes a red flag person could start out as a green flag person. And maybe they're tickling you and it's fun, but then they tickle too much and it kind of hurts. And then they're not stopping when you say stop. And now they're kind of an orangish kind of red flag person. And to just be aware of that and to understand that green flag people can turn into red flag people. And they can be family members, friends of your parents, teachers, friends of yours. Like they can, stranger, Anyway, so I have used that term thanks to a book that my dear friend Tracy gave me when the kids were little.
Our dear friend Tracy.
Our dear friend Tracy. Yeah. Kids start exploring their bodies when they're babies. We're just like humans in skin suits and we're just walking around experiencing our bodies.
And when something feels good, you want to keep doing
And
it.
if something feels
Like,
good,
I'm
you
gonna
just want
return
to
to
keep
that.
doing it. Their whole life, I've put them to bed. I read them a book. I'm laying in their bed with them. And I think this is totally natural for every little kid. They would sometimes like touch themselves while I'm laying in bed. And I would have to say, like, when they're little, it's like, okay, you just whatever. But as time moves on, it's like, I know that feels really good. I get it. That feels really good. But it's better to do that when you're alone. It's more appropriate to do that when you're alone. And even using the word appropriate, it's like, should I be saying that word? Inappropriate, appropriate. Nah, that's what I'm rolling with. So just do that when you're alone in bed. But I've been really conscious not to shame them about their bodies. That's for sure.
You're creating a barrier between what you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't need to be perpetuated.
Right.
Have you felt shame throughout your life
Yes.
about your body?
Very much so. I didn't know how to give myself an orgasm until I was in my mid-20s. And I learned that by mimicking what my boyfriend did for me. I didn't talk to anybody about it because I felt ashamed that I didn't know how to do. I knew other women certainly would masturbate, but I never did. And when I did start to masturbate in my 20s, I would have to have like the shades drawn, no light, music on, kind of transport myself into elsewhere. I was not present with my body. And looking back on it, I just want to like give my younger self a hug. I also want to say to my younger self, way to push through that.
Yeah.
Like you did it anyway. And I didn't have my first sex toy until I was in my mid to late 30s. I was hanging out at house one night drinking wine, and it was her boyfriend at the time, herself and myself on the back porch drinking wine. And her boyfriend couldn't believe that I didn't have a sex toy and said, "Hold on." And he went and got a sex toy that had just been delivered. He bought like several of them. It had not been used. I just went for the record. We're not doing that. But like, it was brand new. And he's like, "Here you go."
That's lovely.
Isn't it?
That's
I really
lovely.
do love it. But bringing that into the bedroom with my ex-husband was not met with smiles. So that was also an interesting and surprising twist.
He felt threatened by it?
He felt threatened by it. So I would only use it by myself. And again, with the curtains drawn.
Right. Would he ask you if you used it, or there was like he didn't even want to know?
We didn't even talk about it.
Yeah.
I didn't touch myself in front of a man until about the end of our marriage, a couple of years ago. The idea of touching myself, pleasuring myself in front of a man was so heavy and just no. It would just shut me down immediately because I had been with plenty of men, and in the heat of the moment, he could tell that I was not getting much pleasure from what was going on, and he would just like grab my, and this is, boyfriends, whatever, grab my hand and start to put it down there, and I would just pull it away. Like I just could not even get close to touching myself. I also could not witness them touching themselves. And I think back on that, and that makes me really sad for them and me. But this purity culture hangover didn't just impact me, but it absolutely impacted romantic partners that I've had, and our ability to experience pleasure together.
If you're supposed to save yourself, quote unquote, for
Yeah.
marriage, and you're not supposed to like sex, you're supposed to ignore your
Oh,
urges, repress them,
yeah.
both men and women. And then somehow some magical switch is supposed to be turned on.
But it doesn't.
If you have felt shame and dirtiness
Mhm.
and guilt and just wrongness, like how do you like, okay, now you should be enjoying sex.
No. What happens is you're internalizing all that. You don't talk about it with your partner because you don't know what you don't know. But you do know that your voice should still be small in the bedroom. You have no voice. The pleasure is all his. And if you don't have an orgasm, say la vie. I mean, that's not the point. And if you do have an orgasm, woohoo. Like I remember going a couple years without having an orgasm in my marriage. And oh.
And he never asked, he never.
No, it turned into a thing. He would get really frustrated. This makes me just want to cry thinking about it. He would get really frustrated, and then sex became kind of this weaponized thing where if I didn't have an orgasm, he was offended. He was doing something wrong, or I was taking too long to come. And it just became a thing, and it was awful. And it makes me feel sad for him and for me and for us. Also, during that time, I was having babies, and my body was totally changing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a C-section scar that ached. It fucking hurts, man. It cuts through every layer of muscle you have, and then they rearrange your organs. And so, yeah, your voice just becomes small in the bedroom. Yeah, I didn't even know what to ask for in the bedroom because I didn't know my body.
That's a good way of putting it. Like your voice becomes small in the bedroom, and I think it does for all women, like regardless of whether or not you've grown up. Not, I shouldn't say all women, because I also know women who were kind of born being like, no, this is what I want.
Right.
But when you talk about like the voice becoming smaller, like that just made me think of how the silence is just amplified.
Oh my God. It's
right?
so loud.
You should be silent to begin with, kind of silent, not really. You don't know your body. So there's the silence of people are ashamed or people are shy. I don't even want to say ashamed. I don't want to put a weight on it, but it's hard to talk about things when you're naked with someone. You also want to please people.
Yeah.
And not just in the larger sociological sense of like we are taught to please men, but you're with someone, you're like, I want them to feel good.
Right.
We all have fragile egos to some point, right? To some extent. There's that shyness. And then there's the taught. It's not even shyness. It's the shame or the silence. Like you don't ask, because to ask is to admit that you really like sex or want it as a woman, and you should not be doing that.
Right.
And then you add the church on top of that.
Right.
It is to the godzillionth power at that point.
I can just imagine if you believe in God, he is sitting back watching this go, oh, you guys stop. Just stop. Your bodies are built for this. Pleasure. Your bodies are built to experience pleasure. What are you doing?
And more pleasure than most animals on this earth, because we are among the very few mammals who have sex, who have intercourse recreationally. We don't just have intercourse when we're in heat.
You say that and I'm imagining a cat walking around. But yes.
Right? I mean, dogs and cats, they don't, they're not like always down for it.
No, they're not.
They have some procreative sex. Most of it, the vast majority is recreational.
Yay.
Right? I mean, also, even if you're trying to get, or even if you want to get pregnant, or even if you believe it should be procreational, there's only really a few weeks of the year, if you put all the days together, where you are procreative, if you can even do that, and for a set period of years.
It's a total logistics thing too. It's wild getting pregnant, like intentionally. It's like, oh man, we're on a schedule. Okay, this is weird.
Part of what I'm doing this project is because I just want to, I want to hug all of our younger selves.
Yeah.
And say there's absolutely nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Yeah, just so much damage, so much pain, so much lousy sex.
So much lousy sex.
So much of what is one of the best things in life.
Right.
And just mediocre.
And it's wild. It's like now I'm in my 40s and I'm having just fantastic sex, and my partner is just a lovely person. But also I know my body. I now know my body. And man, if I could go back in my 20s, that would have been phenomenal sex.
I think I had pretty good sex in my 20s. I didn't have what I have now.
Right. Yeah.
And as a friend of mine says, and this is kind of related to that, men have been stopping halfway through for millennia.
Oh my God.
Because we have this idea that like the main event is penetration.
Right.
It's not mandatory, the quote unquote foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that term because it's not an appetizer.
I was just thinking of an appetizer. Right. But like side note, tapas restaurants are my favorite.
Oh, I love that.
So,
That might be the title of this episode.
For real.
Knowing my body and then also having a great partner. My partner now is the first where I like realized after we started having sexy time, all of it.
Right.
I don't know how long kind of we'd been together. I was like, oh, he makes sure that I orgasm.
Yes.
Every time before we have intercourse. Mm-hmm. We still end on that. Because again, that gives men pleasure. And I have no problem with it. I like it.
Yeah.
It gives me pleasure too. But it's not a given, right? That I'm going to orgasm from that. But yeah, I was just like, oh, I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And was shocked and surprised and, like pleasantly, lovingly, wonderfully surprised. It's like, oh my God, how sad that it took decades of sex. Huh. That was always a possibility, but I hadn't ever told myself like.
And you didn't know to ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so sexually open, but only to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I blame P and V. I talk about this all the time, like the focus of P and V, that is sex.
Right. There's a lot of erogenous zones on our body. It's lovely.
I was talking to this medieval historian, like I'm with her and agreeing with the church from 1,000 years ago that, sex is more than just penetration. Mm-hmm. Oral sex is sex. Mm-hmm. Kissing is sex.
Oh God, I'll never forget this. I had an orgasm from my nipples being sucked once. I didn't know what the hell was happening, but it was fantastic. It's like, whoa, that's a fun surprise. Can I share with you something that I repeated, I would say every morning in my meditation nook for a long time. And I picked this up at a women's retreat, 2019. So we are entitled to wear the crown that awakens all pleasure. And I would stare in the mirror and say that again and again and again. Because we're divine beings. I'm a divine being. And that's my right. I am entitled to wear the crown of divine pleasure.
If there's several things that I can do with this project. One is to teach people, everybody, that the clitoris is the female sexual organ, not the vagina. Mm-hmm. And two, to make not just women, but everybody understand that women are entitled to pleasure. Mm-hmm. It's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's so simple.
Yeah. And at that retreat, they had us do an exercise where I have my little journal here. I decided to draw like an image of my body, just like a creative expression of my body. And we went through piece by piece, talking about your hair. And I said, I am my hair and I feel alive and hopeful. Cool. I am my stomach and I feel hungry. I need nourishment. And so we went through different parts of the body. I am my knees. I am my ankles. I am my feet. I am my hips, and write something about each part. And again, this was 2019. And I got to the part, your lady bits. And I said, I am my labia. I am my clitoris. I am my vagina. And I feel alone. Mm. And that's hard. That's hard to remember back on that. But I'm happy to be here now. My labia, my clitoris, my vagina does not feel alone anymore. Not because I have a lovely partner, but because like I've sunk into my body. Mm-hmm. And I was really, really intentional on getting to know my body and sitting silently with my body and staring in the mirror and talking to myself and saying all the lovely things, like reminding myself of my light. That's one of the ways I crawled out of the purity hole.
That's why I have so much respect for you and awe. It's a very deep, dark hole to crawl out of.
It is. In preparation for like speaking to you, like I dug out Women Who Run with the Wolves. Mm-hmm. I used to collect that book from a public library. I lived on Clearwater Beach for a long time in my early 20s.
Where is that?
It is west of Tampa. So I lived actually on the beach. I was a lifeguard. I was a college student. I was a waitress. So anyway, at this public library, they had a little store where you could buy old library books that were no longer on the shelves. And for some reason, they always had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Women Who Run with the Wolves books. and they were like $1 a piece. And I got one for myself and I read it, and it's filled with notes. I was paging through my notes today before you came over. And I remember I would buy up books and give them to my girlfriends for their birthday, for anything. So, I guess my climbing out of the purity hole journey really began back then. But back then in my 20s, I was still very separated from my body. But I knew I would arrive here at one point. I didn't know what here was, but I knew I had to just keep reading and digesting women's voices about their journey in their human skin suit. And I would eventually find my way there too.
And being comfortable and feeling like you're in your body. Are there moments when some of the baggage comes up, like with your current partner? Is there ever this kind of knee-jerk reaction to like, oh, this is shameful, or this is like, I shouldn't?
God, I love that question, because I want to say yes, but as I'm thinking of the time I've been with him, he is such an empathetic and calm and loving person down to his core that in times where I have felt insecure or whatever, I felt something, he has been able to just kind of bring me back to reality and hold me or kiss me extra passionately, or just, I don't know, just tell me how beautiful I am. Just bring me back to reality, like reflect my light. That's it. But I will say, like, bits of like the patriarchy comes into play when I have received more pleasure. Like the focus has been on me, possibly. In my head, I'm like, I didn't do enough for him, but he's fine. We had a good time. Like I check in with him and he's fine. So I catch myself, just kind of doubting, I don't know, did I do enough?
Yeah, that's a great point, because that is something that is such hard baggage to get rid of.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to trust that the person's going to tell me.
Yes.
I don't have to worry.
I don't have to worry, because it's trust. I trust my body. I trust that I can use my voice. And I trust that he can use his voice.
If it was better for me than it was for him in that moment, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen. The relationship isn't going to fall apart.
Right. And also, like, the experience of being with your partner, like, it's an experience. It's not just about P and V, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have an orgasm, it is not the end of the world. That's okay. We had a lot of fun. A lot of pleasure was had. And I need 8 hours of sleep because I have a big day tomorrow. So we're good or whatever. But I think that's a good point. It does come back to trust.
And trusting yourself.
Trusting yourself. Yeah.
It comes back to what you're saying. Like, I have the right to wear the crown of pleasure. And as much as this is a reciprocal moment, it's okay to place myself first.
And also, like, the crown of pleasure, it's not just about sexual pleasure. It's about wearing whatever, adorning yourself with beautiful things. For me, jewelry. I love jewelry. If I'm having a hard day, I am going to adorn myself with some jewelry. I'm probably going to put on a flowy skirt. Or whatever. I'm going to put on something that makes me feel great. And as in the purity culture, I'm thinking of so many girls and women that I saw growing up. And even I go back and visit this church. They look so solemn, just kind of sad and reserved, and their clothes are very plain, and their clothes do not complement their curves. You don't have curves. And it just makes me feel so sad for them. It's like, girlfriend, it's okay. Celebrate yourself. Loosen your back. That's another thing. The way women and girls carry themselves, and I did it too, and I see it in family members, it's very controlled and rigid, which makes me think maybe that's why they don't really pursue yoga or Pilates or, heaven forbid, Zumba. Or like, do we even do Zumba anymore? I don't know. Things that loosen your body up.
It's not this message of you can be fully present and you can own your body and you can have a great time in your body up until the sex stuff. It's all of it.
It's all of it. Well, and me going through a divorce, how I've carried my body throughout all these years and all these transitions. I'm thinking of all the times that as a married woman, I didn't dress the way I wanted to dress because I'm a married woman and we're going out. I shouldn't attract attention. I'm a married woman. And, now that I'm divorced, but I'm partnered with a lovely man, I have vowed to myself, even if this partnership goes on for a very, very long time, I will never make myself small again. If I want to wear the flowy ass dress with a crop top, I'm wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's this purity culture stuff. It really bleeds into even as simple as how you walk
Yeah.
in a crowd, how you speak.
To know you, I mean, we haven't hung out that much, but how you come across is this like very beautiful woman, very comfortable in her body, who wears whatever she wants to wear.
Thank you. It makes me so happy.
Which is why I said like
Yeah.
appearances are deceiving.
Yeah. And
Because I've known you to wear, and I say this with no
Mhm.
judgment whatsoever, like sexy clothes where I'm like, oh, I like that.
Oh, thank you.
Owning your body is so much more than just, I can put this on.
Mhm.
It's like how I feel and how I'm going to let myself feel.
Yep. So here's another thing. I always kind of joke with friends when I talk about purity culture, and I'm like, but my parents messed up. They let me join a swim team when I was 7, 8 years old. So I grew up swimming next to boys who were pretty much naked. I was pretty much naked. It's cold. My nipples were hard. It did not matter. We are just in our human skin suits, existing, competing. And so at a very young age, I just became like comfortable in my body. So then when high school came around and I'm in the youth group and they're like, you're not allowed to wear sleeveless shirts. Why? My arms are jacked. I love my arms.
I love your arms.
Thank you. And it's like, it just didn't line up. It just always felt like control because it didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
My parents messed up. That shame stuff didn't work on me in this regard. Here's something to touch on in your journey of women like sex in this whole podcast series. I would be interested to hear about other women's journeys who grew up in the purity culture with breastfeeding. Breastfeeding in public. It was like I got to reclaim my body because I am a married woman with a baby. I did the thing y'all wanted me to do. I did the thing. I'm doing the thing. Now I get to whip out my breast in public. This is great. So there was a part of me that every time I did it, I was like, cool. All right. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I get to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to push through this uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out no one's looking. Also,
Yeah.
you're feeding a baby. It's not this sexual thing. But it did feel like a small act of like rebellion because I can only imagine that the other women I grew up with in the church who still adhere to this purity mindset, there's no way they would breastfeed their baby in public. And if they do, they certainly have a cover over their baby as if it is a weird sexual, like you're exposing yourself thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I got to kind of, I don't know, live in that duality.
That's great. The victories have to come.
Yeah.
Wherever you can take them and realize that they are victories.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask you, did you want to read that poem?
Oh, sure.
You texted me this yesterday and it gave me goosebumps, even though I am, again, not someone who had a church to come away from to then go back to.
I can smell my hometown church when I read this poem.
Mm-hmm.
She does such a great job at articulating how heavy this is. Isabel Maring, thank you for your words. I set foot in a church after years away, at my mother's request, who is 73 years young. I walked back into a church, a sacred space I had not entered in so long, for reasons my very body still remembered. It was an Easter service, the time of resurrection. The pews were full, the voices were lifted high. Good people, warm smiles, songs thick with devotion, and yet, underneath it all, the same ancient pulse beat through every chord and every word. You are broken. You are fallen. You must live on your knees. You must never forget what you owe. Never stop begging for forgiveness. Never stop reminding yourself that he died for you. And we call this love? A love that demands we kneel in perpetual shame. A love that demands we prove ourselves worthy by our endless remembering of our wretchedness. A love that says, the highest devotion is the unceasing grief of what we are not. I sat there, surrounded by song, and I rolled my spirit back into itself, because there was no song that could drown out the knowing inside me. This is not redemption. This is the great forgetting. The forgetting that the divine is not a distant judge. The forgetting that we were never abandoned, exiled, or guilt-tripped. The forgetting that the Christ light is of us, not above us. And the real kicker? The great story of resurrection was told, And every image, every painting, every dramatization, all men. Not a woman in sight. At the critical moment, when they spoke of the risen one being seen, there was a passing line. There was a woman who saw him, and she went to tell the disciples. That was it. No name, no honor, no weight given to the first witness of the greatest event in Christendom. And I rolled my eyes so loudly that the angels themselves must have heard, because we know who she was. Miriam of Magdala, the one called apostle to the apostles, the one entrusted with the flame of the living word, embodied, unified, one with God, but erased, reduced to a woman. Even now, I will not bow at the altar of forgetting. I will not beg for a purity that was never lost. I will not teach my soul to live in penance for its own existence. The only true purification is the ripping away of the false self, the false matrices, the sleeping identity written by the hands of the archons and signed with the ink of our silence. The real resurrection happens not on your knees, but when you stand up inside your own bones, with your own breath, and remember, you were never abandoned. You were never wretched. You only forgot. And now you remember. This is the gospel that was never edited. This is the Christ fire that was never extinguished. This is the restoration, the living one, the true one. And it is already within you. This is the restoration we do in all my work with women. When you're ready, you know where to find me. I love you forever. Oh, I love it so much.
I think that's a lovely note to end on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for trusting me.
Yeah.
That was my friend Sarah, a survivor of purity culture whose indomitable spirit and joy are a joy to be around. A transcript of our conversation, as well as Isabel Maring's poem, can be found on the episodes page of womenlikesex.com, episode 10. Women Like Sex is a flipped script production. It is executive produced and edited by me, Natasha Sняновich. Website design and artwork is by Ted Nunez. Edesio Martinez is associate producer. For more episodes and swag, or to subscribe to the podcast or Patreon, please visit womenlikesex.com, the Women Like Sex YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Women Like Sex. Pass it on.